Hello everybody, it's Craig here from MobileTechTalk, and we are back today with another little video sample from the Infinix Zero 8. Now you're probably sitting there and going, what the hell is an Infinix Zero 8? And that's because most of us here in the West, anywhere really in Europe, outside of really Africa or Asia, won't have actually seen this before. So this particular phone is obviously made for those markets. Very much like Xiaomi was originally made for the Chinese market and has spread over to the Western market. Infinix is trying to do the same thing. I think I'm pronouncing their name right. What they're trying to do is branch out a little bit more, and as the entire world seems to be delivering a sort of race to the mid end of smartphones rather than the flagship end, nobody really wants to be spending over £1,000, euros, dollars, whatever currency it is, for a smartphone nowadays. Infinix seem to believe that they've got a compelling offering, and on paper they probably have. So this particular device is their flagship device. It's got a 6.85 inch screen, which is a 1080p display. They've got a quad camera setup, which again on paper sounds like it's in line with everything else everybody else is doing at the moment. We'll get to those specs in a second, because that's specifically what this video is about. Comes with 8GB of RAM, a MediaTek chip rather than a Snapdragon or obviously an Exynos or a Kirin on a Huawei or Samsung respectively. So a Helio G90T. Now obviously this isn't a spec laden video, but for those who are into such things, this particular chip from MediaTek used to get a lot of grief for being the sort of whipping boys of the system on chip market, but the Helio G90T seems to be pulling up a few trees in the mid-end. So there's a number of devices that have used it, and they've all been performing incredibly well against the likes of the Snapdragon 730Gs, the sort of mid-range kings that a lot of devices are starting to use to keep their costs down in the manufacturing process, and offer that value on to customers, and therefore sweep up market share in the mid-range. It also comes with a 45,000 milliamp hour battery, which is going to be good for easily a day of heavy use. In the full review I'll outline exactly what I managed to get out of this. It's not quite as good as I thought it was going to be given the size, but what it does do is manage to get me through the day easily. I think with a few tweaks from a software perspective, again, check the full review on mobiletechtalk.co.uk to see exactly the nuance around the battery, but with a few tweaks on software I can definitely see them improving that. Now there's a few other bits and pieces that we need to talk about on this. It does come with Android 10, and their software skin on top is XOS, and it comes in XOS 7. Now, just like with Huawei and a number of other Chinese and Asian manufacturers, the skin on this is particularly pervasive. So not only does it come with a number of additional bloatware apps, that some of which you can install, some of which you can't, they spawn a number of notifications and adverts during the working day as well, which can be a little bit annoying. That all saps a little bit of battery, which goes to my previous statement, but it's just fairly annoying. But I understand why they've done that, because it keeps the cost down, they get a bit of sponsorship. I can see that perhaps changing if they've got real ambitions of moving into the sort of Western market, which I don't think they're going to probably do for a couple of generations, but the Zero X is probably one of the first that we've seen come over here. So back to the camera then. So as you can probably see while I've been talking, this is a 4K 30 FPS video sample. I'll be doing a 10K, wow, imagine if this could do 10K, a 1080p 60 FPS sample as well, because you can get, I think it's, I know it's on 1080p 30 FPS, you can get the enhanced image stabilisation. It doesn't have OIS as EIS, electronic image stabilisation, but you can't get on the 4K video sample, which I'm doing here. So those four cameras, there's a 64 meg f1.9 aperture wide angle lens, which is really nice. I say really nice. Is it a Pixel 4a or is it a Pixel 5, forthcoming Pixel 5 quality? No, it's not. Is it comparable with a lot of mid-market devices that aren't from perhaps the toppest tier manufacturers? Absolutely it is. That's what's impressed me. It's got an 8 megapixel ultra wide. Ultra wide is easily my second favorite use of a smartphone camera. I don't really use the creep mode or super telephoto zooms that the likes of Samsung and Huawei traded spec sheets on a couple of years ago. But then it gets a little bit weird. So then they've got a 64 megapixel camera, main camera. Then they've got an ultra wide camera, and then they've got two 2 megapixel depth sensors. Originally I thought one was for macro, but it isn't. The macro shots are delivered by the ultra wide, which kind of makes sense. So I think there's a little bit of pokery going on. I think they're used for different types of shots, like bokeh shots and portrait shots and whatnot. But either way, a pretty decent spec sheet here. Really not much more to say on the specs. I think what I'm going to do is try and get a little bit closer and try and show a little bit of dynamic range here. And I shall also see if I can get a little bit closer to some of these and see whether I can focus in. There you go. Now the colour accuracy, from what I can see, is a little bit cold, but that could be the LCD screen that I'm using on this device. It's not great, the display. It's not an AMOLED device, so you're not going to get deep dark blacks, and the contrast ratio isn't great. So we'll only really know when we export this and start looking at it on a more calibrated display. But from what I can see, normally on mid-range devices, when I'm recording 4K, I can see a lot of judder on the sort of real-time rendering on the screen. I am not seeing anything. It is crystal clear when I'm moving this, and that to me looks quite a crispy video. So this has just been a quick, and there's not a lot of colours today. Let's see if we can just walk over here and have a look at how it deals with reds. I'm not going to do a stabilisation test or anything other than me walking. I'm just hand holding this in one hand, kind of loosely, in landscape mode, as you can see. But what I'm really interested in is seeing exactly what it looks like when it's exported. But more interestingly is the 1080p with ultra steady mode, as it calls it. It's electronic image stabilisation. You'll see lots of ultras and megas and supers in the settings on this device. Such is the way in which such things are marketed in the regions in which this is released. So those colours look a little bit blown out here on the screen, but again, that could just be the display. And it looks like it struggles a little bit in terms of dynamic range. You can't see a smooth transition from light to dark when you're moving it into a light source. It looks like it's slightly staggered, but hey, this device is, if you were to buy it, import it, would be circa £200. That's really not bad. That's fully unlocked. I'm not sure what customer service would be like, because I think the nearest service centre is probably in Uganda. But anyway, this has just been a quick video. I say quick, it's coming up to 9 minutes now. Probably more after I've put an intro on. But this has just been a little video showing the 4K 30 FPS video sample of the Infinix Zero 8. Stay tuned to MobileTechTalk.co.uk for more coverage on this device. And let's see what other video samples we can get from this. Take care, guys. Goodbye.